Martha Wilson, 68 years old, learned this by accident. She lives on the edge of town, on a half-acre lot with a tidy vegetable patch, a little berry row, and a shed behind the garage. One July morning, she stepped out to cut basil and found fresh rat holes along the compost bin. By that evening, she was furious, not just because of the tunnels, because her grandchildren were due over that weekend, and she did not want poison blocks, spring traps, or anything else sitting where little hands or an old beagle could get curious. So she did what a lot of careful gardeners do. She asked older people first. One neighbor told her to plant mint by the foundation. Another said garlic around the compost. An old church groundskeeper told her lavender on the hot side of the walk made a difference. Martha thought it sounded like folklore. Pretty folklore, maybe, but folklore. Then she called me. What changed her mind was not one plant. It was understanding why certain plants make a place feel wrong to a rat at the chemical level. Rats do not move through the world the way you do. You see shape and color first. They smell first. They read danger through scent. And when you build the right scent barrier, layer by layer, you can make a yard feel hostile without ever putting down poison. By the time I am done here, you will know the 7 plants I trust most for that job, where to place them, which ones work above ground, which ones work where rats tunnel, which ones belong near a shed or compost pile, and which one old farmers treated like a secret weapon. You will also know what these plants can do, what they cannot do, and how to use them without wasting a season. Now, the reason this works is simple. Once you understand the animal, a rat's nose is extraordinarily sensitive. It is not just smelling food. It is constantly testing the air for threat, irritation, and unfamiliar chemistry. Strong volatile compounds, the natural airborne chemicals plants release from leaves, stems, roots, and oils, can throw that system into overload. Some register as sharp and painful. Some act like a chemical warning sign. Some make digging areas feel wrong. Some trigger avoidance because the plant itself has compounds associated with toxicity or stress. That does not mean you plant a little herb in one flower pot and every rat in the county packs a suitcase. It means you stop making your yard easy. And that matters, because most rat problems are not dramatic at first. They are quiet. A little burrow under the compost bin, droppings along a fence line, a chew mark on stored birdseed. Then suddenly the shed smells musky, a tomato disappears overnight, or the dog starts barking at the same corner every evening. What you are losing is not just produce. You are losing sanitation. You are losing stored feed. You are losing wiring in outbuildings. You are losing sleep. And if you wait until you have a real infestation, natural planting alone will not do the whole job. It works best as prevention, pressure reduction, and part of a layered defense. I saw that clearly with a retired mechanic in Zone 6, over near the county line. He had sweet corn, a feed can by the shed, and a compost pile full of kitchen scraps. Every year, by late summer, he had tunnels. He kept thinking the answer was one more trap, but the yard still smelled like an open invitation. We changed the edges of the property, the compost zone, and the bed borders. Not overnight, but within a season, rat activity dropped hard because the place stopped feeling comfortable. That is the good news. This is fixable. And compared with repeated poison and trap purchases, it often costs less than people think. But placement matters, density matters, and using the right plant in the right place matters most of all. The first plant is peppermint. And if you only remember one from this whole conversation, remember this one. Peppermint works because of menthol. Menthol hits cold-sensitive receptors in a rat's nervous system with a sharp, aggressive sensation. To you, peppermint smells clean. To a rat, in high concentration, it can feel like irritation and alarm. Think of it as a bright chemical signal saying, "This is not a calm place to nest." Now here is where people go wrong. They put one little peppermint plant in a decorative pot by the back door, then wonder why nothing changed. Peppermint only earns its keep when you use it as a barrier. Plant it densely along foundations, fence lines, and common entry paths. If you are in zones 5 through 8 and you have a moist spot with partial to full sun, it will spread fast. sometimes too fast. Give it about 12 inches between starts if you want a thick strip by midsummer. Water it in well the first 2 weeks, then let it settle into normal garden moisture. If your back or knees do not want you crawling along a foundation with a trowel, use a long-handled planting tool and work in sections. You do not need to do the whole house in one morning. The standard approach is live plants in the ground. That costs real money. Around a long foundation, that can add up to $30 or $40, sometimes more, depending on how many starts you buy. The budget version is simple. Buy 2 or 3 plants, divide them after they establish, and keep multiplying. You can also root cuttings in water and fill gaps over time for almost nothing. Here is the unexpected part. Peppermint is strongest where it gets brushed, cut, or warmed by afternoon sun. Not damaged badly, just disturbed enough to release more oil. A mint strip near a walkway, where leaves get touched lightly, often smells stronger than mint hidden in a wet corner. That matters. You are not growing mint just to look pretty. You are building a moving scent line. One caution: mint is persistent. In many yards, that is a polite way of saying invasive. If you do not want it running into everything, sink it in bottomless nursery pots or use it in contained strips. And if you have pets that chew plants, peppermint is not the same as inviting them to snack there. You are creating a border, not a salad bar. The second plant is lavender, specifically narrow-leaf lavender. Lavender works differently. Its key compounds, especially linalool and camphor, create a concentrated scent that many people find relaxing. Rats do not. To them, that strong aromatic signal can read as chemical irritation and stress. It is not just that the scent is strong. It is that the scent profile is wrong for a safe nesting zone. Lavender belongs on the sunny side of your property. Think paths, bed edges, and the outer perimeter of the vegetable garden. If you are in zones 5 through 9 and your soil drains well, lavender can be one of the cleanest looking barriers you can plant. Give it full sun if you can. Give it space for airflow. Wet feet kill lavender faster than winter usually does. The common mistake is tucking lavender into rich, damp soil beside thirsty annuals. That is how you lose the plant and the barrier. Lavender likes leaner soil than most vegetables. If your ground stays wet, mound the row slightly or plant in a raised strip. Space plants roughly 18 to 24 inches apart, depending on the variety, and let them form a fragrant line rather than a crowded clump. Near a walkway, the sun warms the oils, and every warm afternoon reinforces that scent field. This one costs a little more up front than mint. Good lavender starts are not always cheap. Be honest about that. If you line a long garden edge with nursery plants, you may spend $40 to $60 without trying. The budget version is to plant fewer, then fill between them with annuals that also carry scent pressure, like marigolds. That gives you function now while the lavender matures. Here is what surprises people. Lavender does not need to touch the place rats enter. It needs to influence the air around the route. A sunny path beside a fence gate can matter more than a random clump in the middle of the yard. You are shaping movement. That is the whole game. And if you grow it for culinary use, all the better. A plant that earns space twice is easier to justify. The third plant is marigold. Marigolds are often treated like a cheerful border flower, but they do more than decorate. Many types release sulfur-based compounds called thiophene. Those compounds contribute to a root zone and scent environment that many pests dislike. Around rats, marigolds are not magic by themselves, but planted densely around beds, they help turn soft, easy edges into less inviting ground. Their roots matter here too. Roots change the chemistry of the upper soil layer, and rats pay attention to soil conditions when they tunnel. They prefer predictable, sheltered, low-disturbance places. Dense marigold borders create a busier, smellier, less comfortable rim. The mistake people make is spacing them like they are planting for a magazine photo. For rat deterrents, pretty gaps are wasted gaps. Plant marigolds tighter than you think. About 8 to 10 inches apart in a solid row around raised beds works well in many home gardens. If you have in-ground beds, run them along the outside edges where rodents are likely to test the border first. In northern zones, wait until your soil warms and frost is truly behind you. Cold marinated marigolds just sulk. This is one of the cheaper options in the whole system. A seed packet costs very little. Even cell packs are affordable. If you want a near-zero budget version, start them from seed indoors 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost, or direct sow after the soil warms. They are forgiving, bright, and useful. Now here is the trick that most beginner guides skip. For deterrents, deadhead some flowers, yes, but do not turn the planting into a neat little cosmetic line. Let it become a low, full, fragrant border. Density is your friend. A formal scattering of marigolds looks nice. A thick marigold ring works better. If bending over to deadhead is hard on you, use small floral snips with a long reach, or simply shear lightly once midsummer growth gets shaggy. The goal is not perfection. The goal is coverage. The fourth plant is wormwood, the old bitter one, Artemisia absinthium. This is where old farm knowledge gets interesting. Wormwood has a reputation for a reason. Its chemistry is intense. Compounds such as absinthin and thujone give it that bitter, sharp, almost medicinal scent. To a rat, that aroma profile can feel hostile fast. I have heard old-timers call it botanical barbed wire. That is colorful language, but the placement logic is sound. Do not put wormwood everywhere. It belongs where you want a warning sign, not where you want cooperation from neighboring vegetables. Wormwood can suppress nearby plant growth. That is the mistake that catches people. They hear it repels pests, then stick it right beside beans or lettuce and wonder why nothing nearby seems happy. Use it near compost piles, at lot boundaries, behind sheds, or in rough transition zones where you need a strong, no-nesting signal. Give it some breathing room. Think of it as a perimeter enforcer, not a companion plant for your tomatoes. In most temperate zones, wormwood handles lean soil better than rich soil. It does not need pampering. In fact, too much fertilizer can make it floppy. Space it generously, around 2 to 3 feet in many cases, because mature plants are not tiny. They carry presence. Here is the cost truth. You probably do not need many. 1 or 2 plants placed strategically can do more than a whole decorative drift in the wrong place. That makes wormwood cost-effective if you use it with discipline. Now the unexpected piece. Wormwood is especially useful near compost because compost often combines 2 things rats like: food scent and cover. Even if your pile is well managed, the zone around it can become interesting to rodents. Putting wormwood nearby changes the smell story of that area, not in the pile itself, around it. It is the difference between an open diner and a diner next to a chemical warning flare. Important caution here. This is not a nibble around the patio herb. Keep it away from curious children and pets that chew random leaves. Respect the plant. And do not confuse strong smell with safe handling. Wash up after pruning and use gloves if you have sensitive skin. The 5th plant is garlic. And garlic is valuable because it works where rats often travel unseen. When a garlic clove is cut, crushed, or actively growing, it releases sulfur compounds, especially allicin. That smell is unmistakable. It is sharp, penetrating, and to rodents it often reads as something to avoid. The advantage of garlic is that part of its action happens below ground, right where tunnels form. That makes garlic perfect around bed edges, compost zones, and the outer lines of high-value plantings. The common mistake is treating garlic like a symbolic accent. One bulb near the corner of a bed is not a system. For deterrents, plant garlic in bands or repeating pockets. Along the edge of a vegetable bed, space cloves roughly 4 to 6 inches apart in a borderline. Around compost, use clusters. Along the perimeter of raised beds, put garlic especially near corners, because corners create protected approach points. Timing depends on your zone. In many northern and Midwest gardens, fall planting gives the best establishment for the next year. In milder zones, timing can stretch. If you missed fall, spring garlic still has value, but fall-planted garlic usually gives you stronger plants and a steadier presence. This one is wonderfully budget-friendly. Buy a good bulb, preferably a planting type rather than soft grocery cloves if you can help it, and multiply from there. Over time, garlic can become one of the cheapest rat pressure plants in your yard because every harvest can feed the next border. The trick people miss is this. Garlic is strongest as part of a layered edge. A garlic line with marigolds above ground and mint nearby is stronger than any one of those standing alone. Rats navigate by pattern. You want conflicting, irritating scent layers at nose level and soil level both. And garlic gives you a bonus. It is food. If a plant can help protect the bed and also come into the kitchen, that is efficient gardening. If kneeling to plant cloves is rough on your hips or knees, mark the row standing up with a hoe handle. Then drop cloves from a waste pouch and set them with a dibber that has a long shaft. Small adaptations matter. The garden should serve your body too. The sixth plant is rosemary. Rosemary works like a chemical fog machine in shrub form. Its leaves release a complex mix of aromatic compounds, especially camphor, cineole, and pinene. That blend creates a dense, resinous scent that many rodents find deeply unpleasant. Rosemary is especially useful because it can function as a structural barrier. It is not just seasonal fluff. In the right climate, it holds form and scent for a long stretch, sometimes all year. Place rosemary at raised bed corners, beside steps, near shed doors, and at entry points to outbuildings. Those are bottlenecks. When you strengthen bottlenecks, you do not need to scent every inch of the property equally. Now the mistake. People in cold winter regions fall in love with rosemary, plant it everywhere, then lose it after a hard freeze. So be realistic. In colder zones, rosemary may need protection, container growing, or seasonal replacement. In warmer zones, it can become a handsome, evergreen worker. If you are in zone 6 and below, use containers near doors and move them to shelter, or treat rosemary as part of your warm season deterrent plan with a backup for winter. This one can cost more than marigolds or garlic, especially if you buy large plants. But large is not necessary. Small plants establish just fine if you give them drainage and sun. The cheapest version is starting from cuttings or buying end-of-season clearance plants and overwintering them. Here is what catches people off guard. Rosemary works best when you brush past it. A doorway, a gate, the corner of a raised bed where your pant leg or tool handle grazes the plant, that wakes up the scent. Again, you are not planting decoration first. You are placing living chemistry where movement activates it. And because rosemary is culinary, handsome, and pollinator-friendly when it blooms, it earns its place even beyond rodent control. The seventh plant, and the one many people have never considered, is elderberry. This is the one I want you to handle with the most respect. Elderberry has a long history around farmsteads and old storage areas. The leaves and bark contain cyanogenic compounds. When damaged, those tissues can release a bitter, alarming odor profile associated with plant defense. Rats respond strongly to that kind of signal. They do not need to analyze the chemistry. Instinct does that for them. That is why elderberry often turns up in old stories about boundaries, sheds, and cellar zones. Now let me be clear. I am not telling you to cut branches and scatter toxic plant waste around the yard. I am not telling you to let children or pets chew leaves. And I am not telling you to confuse edible processed berries with safe, raw handling of every part of the plant. Those are different things entirely. What I am telling you is that elderberry can be a powerful outer boundary plant when placed intelligently. Use it along the far edge of the property, near outbuildings, beside older sheds, or beyond the main garden where you want a stronger line of defense. Give it room. Elderberry is not a tiny ornamental. Depending on the variety and your climate, it can become a substantial shrub. In zones with good moisture and sunlight, it grows with enthusiasm. The common mistake is putting elderberry too close to the vegetable beds or the patio, because the gardener is thinking only about deterrence and not about scale. Put it where a larger, tougher perimeter plant makes sense. The cost varies a lot. Bare root elderberry can be reasonable. Named nursery shrubs can cost more. The budget route is simple if you know someone who grows it. Elderberry can be propagated from cuttings with patience. That takes time, but very little money. Now the unexpected thing. You do not need a wall of elderberry. One or two well-placed shrubs near recurring trouble zones can change how the outer yard feels. Think of elderberry as a sentinel, not a hedge you run around the whole property. And yes, pollinators often appreciate the flowers. So you are not building an ugly fortress. You are building a beautiful one that just happens to speak a language rats dislike. Now, if you are listening carefully, you may notice I have not said these 7 plants work best as 7 isolated facts. They work best as a system. Here is the system. Use peppermint where rats test the house and fence line. Use lavender where sun heats the path and garden edge. Use marigolds as dense living trim around productive beds. Use wormwood near compost and rough perimeter zones, away from vegetables. Use garlic where tunneling matters, especially around bed edges and compost. Use rosemary at corners, doors, and entry bottlenecks. Use elderberry as an outer sentinel near sheds, cellars, and the broader boundary. That layered design matters more than plant trivia. A single plant gives you a scent. A layered layout gives you pressure. And let me add one thing good gardeners sometimes resist hearing. Plants alone will not overcome sloppiness. If chicken feed is open in the shed, if bird seed spills under the feeder, if dog food sits out overnight, if the compost pile contains greasy scraps and bread by the bucket, you are running a restaurant with a lavender border. No plant can outwork that. Sanitation still matters. Storage still matters. Sealing obvious holes still matters. These plants are part of a deterrent strategy, not permission to ignore the basics. But when you combine clean habits with these plantings, the whole property changes. It starts to smell like herbs, resin, warm leaves, crushed oils, and roots doing their hidden work. To you, it feels beautiful and useful. To pollinators, in many cases, it feels welcoming. To a rat, it feels confused, irritating, exposed, and wrong. That is exactly what you want. So if you were building this from scratch on a normal suburban lot, here is how I would do it. I would start with the highest risk zones first. Foundation line, shed door, compost area, bed edges. Do not try to landscape the entire property in one weekend. That is how enthusiasm turns into sore knees and abandoned flats of plants. Week 1. Get peppermint and garlic in around the most obvious access points. Week 2. Add marigolds around the active beds. Week 3. Place lavender and rosemary in the sunny bottlenecks and entry corners. Then decide whether your compost zone needs wormwood and whether your outer property line has a sensible place for elderberry. That staggered approach is easier on the wallet, too. You might spend $15 one week, $20 the next, and build a genuine system without a painful single receipt. That matters. A lot of viewers appreciate honesty about cost because real gardens run on real budgets. And if you are gardening with physical limitations, build upward and outward, not downward and heroic. Use containers for rosemary. Use narrow border trenches instead of broad bed renovations. Use divided mint starts instead of hauling in heavy shrubs all at once. A good plan should still be a good plan when your back is talking back to you. Martha, the woman I told you about at the beginning, did almost exactly this. She put peppermint by the foundation behind the garage. Garlic and marigolds went around the compost zone and the raised beds. Lavender lined the sunny walk from the patio gate. Rosemary sat in 2 big containers by the shed door because her winters are too cold to trust it in the ground. And at the back edge of the lot, near an old wire fence and the place she kept seeing movement at dusk, she planted elderberry. Did every rat vanish in one dramatic night? No, that is not how honest gardening works. But within weeks, the fresh digging around the compost dropped off. By late summer, the shed corner that always smelled musky had gone quiet. The yard felt cleaner, the path smelled better, the beds looked better. And when her grandchildren came over, she was not worrying about bait stations hidden behind the rain barrel. That is the result image I want you to keep. A walkway brushed with lavender and mint on a hot evening. marigolds making a thick gold line around your beds, garlic doing unseen work under the soil, rosemary holding the corners like little evergreen guards, a compost area that no longer feels like an invitation, a shed that smells like wood and herbs instead of rodents, and all of it doing double duty, beautiful to look at, useful in the kitchen, welcoming to bees where appropriate, but chemically unpleasant to the one animal you do not want making itself at home. If you remember one lesson, remember this. Rats live by their nose. Change the smell story of your yard, and you change the comfort level of the animal. Not with panic, not with poison first, with placement, with density, with plant chemistry used on purpose. And once you get that outer defense in place, the next thing worth solving is what attracts rats in the first place, especially around compost, bird feeders, stored seed, and fall harvest storage. Because a yard can smell wrong to a rat and still offer an easy meal if you leave one sitting out. That is where this gets really effective. A clean property, sealed feed, disciplined compost, and the right living barriers. Put those together, and by late summer, your garden looks like a place built for you, your table, and the pollinators, but not for rats.